Are you procrastinating on making a tough team decision? Stay tuned for why you should take action sooner rather than later. Hi, Shannon Waller here, and welcome to Team Success. Today's podcast is called Once You Know, You Know. And what I mean by that is that once you know that someone is no longer a right fit for your team, for your company, I'm going to strongly encourage you to take action and not to wait. I have talked to several people lately who are like, no, I need to put it off. I know that they need to leave the company, but I'm not sure, what the impact on other people is going to be. I think we should keep them around for a while. And I have to tell you, I think that's slightly erroneous in terms of your thinking. So I'm going to encourage you to take action on your decision, because I've also heard from other people that when you have someone on board, when you keep them on board after it's clear to you, and undoubtedly, by the way, very clear to other people, because as leaders, we are the last to know. We really are. By the time it bubbles up to us, everyone else has known this for a long time. It actually sends the wrong kind of message to your team. This is really all about multiplication by subtraction. And I want to actually give you the confidence to take action more quickly than you might have otherwise. The status quo has a vote. We don't like to, quote unquote, upset the apple cart. We don't want to be disruptive. We know that also hurts situations. And I agree, but there are things that you can do to mitigate that. And I have to say, from horror stories, if you want to call them that, the consequences of keeping a wrong fit team member in place for too long, the cost is high. And there are really two different types of costs that I see. One is on the team. So there's a couple ways to think about this. One is they know that that person is not doing their job the way that they need to the same quality standard. Maybe that person doesn't have either the cognitive capabilities like their Colby, or cognitively not taking in the learning. Maybe they're the wrong personality for that role. And it's really evident, but you're not doing anything about it. So what message does that send? That sends the message that your standards aren't as high as you profess them to be. People start making judgments about your effectiveness and not taking action, or they maybe will judge your courage or what is the perceived lack thereof. I have to tell you, there are a lot of judgments that fly around when people do not take action on what to them is clearly a wrong fit person. And what happens, especially with your very best people, is they're like, oh, if they're going to tolerate mediocrity, then what's the point of me going above and beyond? If I'm an A player, but they're really happy with B or C players, what's the point? And then they downgrade their contribution and their behavior. Well, you don't want that to happen. That's bad, right? Maybe they'll try and just distance themselves from that individual or kind of ignore it. But that takes mental and emotional energy to shunt something off to the side. Whereas if they're on a team of, let's use the term A players, or I even prefer unique ability team, then everyone is pushing and pulling everyone else to be their very best. And it's open and it's interesting and it's celebratory and it's challenging in the best way possible. That brings out the best in people. Tolerating people who are not operating at their best in this environment, I'm not saying they don't have a best somewhere else, by the way, but you need to free them up to the marketplace, quote unquote, to see how that plays out. It doesn't serve your teammates. It's like being on an all-star team, but you've got someone who's frankly just not very good. You have to work around them. And that takes time and effort. And again, emotional and mental energy. So there's a big cost there. Now, there's another cost, which might scare you even more, although hopefully not supporting your A players should also be slightly worrying. But the other cost is with your clientele. There is friction. There is drag when client needs are not being met, when the process for delivering your really top quality result is slowed, or there are mistakes. Literally, I've heard about drawerfuls of invoices not paid because the person couldn't quite figure out how to do that. That's not good, or worse, not being sent out. So you're all of a sudden your cash flow, you're like, what happened? I have heard all of these stories so often. And even the story that kicks off multiplication by subtraction is one where We were talking about multiplication by subtraction. I was getting ready to draft the book, and I was, of course, talking to my fabulous team leader group because they're just such a great source of information. So we had talked about this, and my client had decided that, in 90 days, someone needed to go. And then he gets a phone call before he gets onto the plane for a 4-hour flight from someone who they had a mutual client and said, by the way, this person is not serving us very well. I mean, I heard complaints from the client that they're not taking care of your client. And then he had to get on a plane and be out of communication for 4 hours. That was not a happy ride home, I can tell you. So he goes in, talks to the business owner. The business owner is like, why do we have to wait 3 months? Let's do it next week. And that actually is what happened. So clients know too. And they're also wondering why you're tolerating this, why you're not upholding the standards that you profess to have. And you might have some other reasons, like maybe you want to make more changes all at once. Again, maybe you're afraid of those repercussions. Maybe you don't have someone else to take on the work. You'll figure it out is what I want to say. Maybe you delay it for a couple of days, maybe a week, but once you know, you know. And I want to strongly encourage you to take action because, again, the costs are high when you don't. And just a reminder, if you have not read Multiplication by Subtraction, either ever or for a while, there are some scenarios that I want to talk through. It goes from easiest to hardest, just to let you know. So number one is when you hire someone and they are not as advertised. So you've done the interview process. Hopefully, please use profiles. It's such an incredible shortcut to find out whether or not someone actually has the mental, cognitive, and emotional wherewithal to do the role that you want. But they interviewed well, went through everything, but they get on the job and they just can't do it. Have had more of those than I care to count. Please take action, make a decision, just cut your losses and move. Now, the level of difficulty on this one is a 1 out of 5. Okay, so in the first 3 months, we kind of expect that this could happen sometimes. Number 2, right person, wrong role. So this is where you have a really great human, but they are not the right fit for the role. Again, take action. See whether or not there's somewhere else in your company where they would be a better fit. And then again, move them. Did that recently actually in our company. Someone was hired. Unfortunately, the instructions they were given was just, well, I don't know sure much detail to go into, but they thought they were doing their role, rubbed everyone the wrong way. We've looked at what her talents and her strengths are. Another team really needed this capability, and then boom, within a couple of days, we had moved them over, and it has been a much happier success story ever since. And I'm really happy that we did not dilly-dally and we took action immediately to make that happen. So when something's not working out, pay attention and don't sit with it. Don't stay in the pain, move it. And if that move doesn't work, then maybe that person needs to go out, but at least you've taken action. We learn by doing. Once you take action, you're like, oh, that worked or it didn't. But thinking about it, that's not going to teach you anything. You're still in your own head. The world hasn't had a chance to have its vote yet. So that is actually a 3 out of 5 level of difficulty in my estimation. Another one, this is the not fun one, the warm body who has stopped growing, aka the zombie. I've been working with Strategic Coach since 1991, so coming up to 35 years, long time. Working with Deirdre Van Nest, who is my brilliant speaking coach. Crazy good talks. If anyone's looking for a great recommendation, wholeheartedly from me. And one of the things I'm starting to work on is something called my why story. And I had this aha/duh moment the other day that my reason for being is growth. The reason why I left my previous organization was I did not see a path for growth. What do I endeavor to do every single day, every single year is to be growing. And if I'm not growing, I am not happy with myself, nor am I happy with my environment. So growth is like number 1 on my list for myself and then also clearly for other people. Because of course I translate my mission in life to other people, because don't we all? So this happens. And over the course of 35 years, yes, I've seen more people stop growing. They grew for a while and then they stopped. And this becomes challenging because, well, they don't take on new challenges is one thing. They stay in their own little box. They like to build a little, super comfy couch and a chair and their favorite cup of tea, and that's all they're going to do. And you're like, yeah, we're growing as a company. And Bab Smith, co-founder of Coach, has always been really clear that the growth of our company is contingent upon the growth of every single individual in the company. I love that. So if I'm growing, the company's going to grow. And if the company's growing, I'm going to grow. It's kind of really that separate. So if your team's not growing, guess what? Neither is your organization. But they might have been around for a while. They might be a really nice person. You might really care about them, but they're not growing. So that's really a standard, again, that you want to uphold. That's a level 4 out of 5. Another one, and this is the one I probably hear about the most, have also experienced high performers with really bad habits and poor teamwork skills. These are a challenge. I've heard a couple different models where they have different diagrams about them, but they do harm. They are toxic for your culture. And unless you can reform them, and you need to be in their face and let them know what's working and what's not. And if they're not willing to change, they will exit because they don't like the pressure. But you're like, okay, your results are great. How you are doing it is horrible. Now, I'm not sure if I'd use that word, but you kind of get my point. You're like this, and this. The way you talk to people, the way you respond, the way you don't follow this process, this system is not working. This is a requirement for working here successfully, is that you do these things as well as bringing in the sales or closing whatever or doing the deals. Usually that's the circumstance. So you just make it a requirement that not only are they good at results, but they're also really good at relationships and people and your culture. Otherwise, you're violating, again, your own standards. How many times have I said that in this conversation? Now, this is the one when you really don't want it to come back to you. You're really hoping that they would continue doing that great work. So my experience is this is a level 5 out of 5. Another one, high performers with the wrong value system. So again, not dissimilar, same level, where they just are contradictory to how you want things done. They're either not great with other people. They're actually there for their reasons, not yours. And this is actually what compelled me to write Multiplication by Subtraction, is because I ran into not one, not two, but 3 clients who hired people who were their own kingdom builders. They were building their own little domain and territory within this larger company. And it was awful. They got their way, and then often they would leave. They would take clients with them. They would take team members with them. They were not there for your reasons. They are there for their own. That's what I mean by a different value system. So please recognize them and recognize that, they might be in alignment with you for a few minutes, but ultimately not over the long term. Again, a very challenging one, level 5 out of 5. Now, this is a level 6 out of 5 in difficulty, if there's such a thing. This is legacy team members, people who have been with you for a very, very, very long time. And I don't even know what to say. Often, by the way, this happens in family businesses where, maybe grandpa's still around or what have you. We don't quite have the heart to kick them out. I had a good friend who had promised to take care of the spouse of one of his senior people who passed away. And so he had this obligation. The remaining spouse was still in the company, but oh my gosh, the company outgrew this spouse a long time ago. And yet there was still this obligation. Now I said, there's another way to take care of that person without keeping them employed, right? So eventually it worked out, but it took a very, very long time. So legacy team members who have outgrown their usefulness, again, haven't stopped growing. But this is hard because they're good people and you care about them and they've been around forever. And you might be concerned that they have so much institutional knowledge, which is why you need to capture it all in, processes and systems. Please document it. In Coach, we have Unique Method, which I love it. It's a graphic overview of a process, but Process Suite is an electronic version of those things. So there are ways to capture what people are doing, and ultimately other people will figure it out. So I've always been pleasantly surprised by how people were feeling held hostage by this one person. And then that person did leave for whatever reason, whatever circumstances, and everything turned out fine. Dan Sullivan is funny. Sometimes he'll say, people always think they're so important. And then he goes, it's a little bit like when you put your finger in a glass of water and you pull it out, there's no hole. Now, I'm kind of hoping I would leave a bit of a hole if that was ever my circumstance, but it's kind of amazing how quickly things fill in. So those are some of the concerns you might have, or the circumstances you might find yourself in. But I have to tell you, Please, please, please take action. Don't wait. And you might have to do it in several different spurts. Maybe you're doing a reorganization of some kind. Be incredibly clear and transparent with your team. If you're tidying up one team, then you have, meetings, handle the people that need to be let go of, do it gracefully, do it well, pay people severance, do whatever you need to do it legally, do it ethically. Don't do it in a tantrum. That's not classy. There's also instructions in the book about how to do that well. And then immediately meet with the remaining team and let them know, hey, number one, your job is safe. We love you. We care about you. We had to make a change. You can explain as much as you feel is appropriate. My personal opinion, again, not backed up legally, so please check with your employment lawyer. But if someone made a mistake and they violated something that is important, either legally or with your company values, this is a teaching moment. This is an opportunity for you to say, hey, this happened, and here's why this person is no longer with the company. So other people go, oh, it's kind of interesting. On page 34 and 35, I have a list of behaviors that are a clue. So I call it symptom and the resulting cost. I'll just say them really quickly. Malaise, disengaged, leading to mediocrity. Oppositional, which means it leads to friction. If they can't keep pace, that leads to being a drag. Drama queen or king, okay? That means distractions and loss of focus. If they're not accountable, that leads to a huge loss of momentum, very costly. If they're focused on status, love that, that leads to politics and silos. Oh my God, so draining. I detest politics. If they have an entitlement attitude, that leads to resistance. If they are clueless, and by the way, these are also the people who are clueless as to why they're being fired, because they're clueless. In case you weren't aware of that, that leads to roadblocks. I know I'm not being very kind, but it's also true. If they're uncooperative and non-collaborative, that leads to stalemates. You are being held hostage. If there's a lack of integrity, this is a big deal. That leads to a lack of trust and teamwork. They will be bypassed. If they're arrogant, aka God's gift to your company, that leads to disempowerment of other people. And if they're not adaptable, that leads to resentment because other people are adapting. So sometimes when my clients have been experiencing some of these things with their team members, they have been known to put the book on the person's desk or in their email, in their inbox. And the person's like, oh, were you trying to send me a message? Most of the time they've been quite secretive about it. They're like, no, I just thought you might find this of interest. And then you know what? The person shaped up because they could see themselves in these pages. They were like, oh, someone noticed that I was being whatever, right? Fill in the blank. And they got better. Subtle but effective strategy. Do with that what you wish. But again, the whole point here is I want to let you know that you are not alone. You are experiencing some of these issues, and it is hard to make the decision. Again, we are often the last to know as leaders, and other people are looking at us to see how we were handling it. Long ago circumstance, we had someone who was quite toxic. We let them go. And one of the nicest people I have ever met, name is Katie, who just never had anything negative to say about anybody. Her one comment was, what took you so long? And I was kind of gobsmacked. I'm like, oh my God, if she's felt this way, and if she knew this, we were really slow on the uptake. So you will do your team a world of good. Yes, they will need reassurance. Let them know how it's going to be handled. Please replace the person. Don't just distribute the work all the time. That gets a little tiring. But take care of your team and let them know that you care. Let them know you want a unique ability team of people who operate according to high standards and who are A players, and you are committed to that, and you will invest in them to help them be that way. That's incredibly empowering. It creates loyalty and gives you credibility. It means that people will do their absolute best for your clientele. Your clientele will appreciate the fact that you are putting together a kick-ass team of people who are amazing and that you don't tolerate low standards. They appreciate that. If you're charging top dollar, which I hope you are, you need to deliver a top quality product and service and experience, and it's top quality people who will do that. And I have to tell you, there are some jobs for which I was a horrible wrong fit. Now, I don't think I was ever actually fired. Most of the time I left before that. that happened. So it could happen to anybody. It just means that person's in the wrong place. So again, you just need to free them up to the marketplace. And the message of this conversation is say, please don't wait. If you know, you know. Thank you so much for listening. I deeply appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know at questions@strategiccoach.com. And as always, here's to your team success.